Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Resident Evil 2 playthrough on BrainScratch Commentaries. We're through the initial police station segment, so we're heading down to fight Birkin again. And that's one of the most disappointing parts of the AB scenario set up here, is that both characters fight the same bosses. And it's like, okay, are these stories happening at the same time or are they not? The developer said that they're not, but like, when you fight the second to last Birkin form, or whatever, the one in the big obvious boss arena down in the lab, like the A scenario character gets to see Annette Birkin run in like pretty much uninjured, but then the B scenario character, she stumbles in all beaten to shit and stuff, and it's like, are they implying that Claire already fought this form of Birkin even though we're watching the transformation again? What? I don't get it.
Expecting things to make sense in a video game.
At the very least, like, the original had something different in the different scenarios, because in the lift boss fight, scenario A would fight Birkin that was still grossly mutated, but he still had a sense of humanity left. But B scenario, it looks even more grotesque than originally. Like, I think it grows the extra set of arms.
It's kind of like Sonic Adventure, how one character will fight certain chaos forms and another character will fight the others.
It was still relatively the same boss fight, but it at least looked different.
Yeah. And like, this form of Birkin was a B scenario boss originally.
Yeah.
The first form of Birkin that you would fight in the A scenario, you would see this form, but then it would transform into another, which was supposed to tell you that this was a semi-human thing that was mutating and mutating and mutating more. But every character fights almost all of the Birkin forms. Both characters fight almost all of the Birkin forms in this game. I should be running past him while he's staggered. I don't know why I didn't, but I didn't get hit.
It worked out, so.
It worked out, yeah.
I mean, that one works too, because I think if you always run towards him, he always has the overhead.
Somewhat.
Which gives you plenty of room to avoid left and right. Just run past him.
Franken Birkin is not a particularly smart enemy.
I never liked that cereal.
Every bite's full of virus.
Speaking of not being a smart enemy, he kind of got stuck on his pathfinding for a few seconds there. Oh, damn it!
Ow. Nah, you see, if you're gonna do that, you need to give him the Three Stooges eye poke, complete with sound effect.
Specifically the one on his shoulder, yes.
I don't know if I mentioned this during the Claire playthrough, but the first instance of Resident Evil 2 Birkin, his eye being the weak point, was actually the novel. For some reason, the author didn't want the rocket launcher moment, so she had, like, an assault rifle instead. And then when whichever character fought Birkin form eyeball, they just shot their handgun at the big eye in the center, and it killed it for good, and there wasn't even an explosion. The Resident Evil 2 novel was weird in ways. Ooh.
Oh, my spleen. Also my
Man,
legs.
I'll tell you what, ragdoll physics were a lot funnier when it was only the enemy who had to put up with them. But lately, games have been making the player character ragdoll when hit too.
Yeah.
But it's annoying when it's actually happening to you while you're playing the game, Like, Judgment does the same thing, where if you get hit by a particularly hard attack, your character will ragdoll, and you'll have to mash the button to get back up. It's a little hard to feel like damage you take is your fault when you're at the mercy of the physics engine. Is the thing. It's not so much of a big deal here because the enemies are programmed to just be nice and stop attacking whenever they knock you down.
It's like one step below gentleman's combat. where we swing at each other and take turns, like true sophisticates.
Okay, that is an abstraction, so that doesn't count, okay?
I like to believe that in the Pokemon universe, Pikachu will just stand there while my Charmander does Ember and will not move until that he gets hit by it. And then he will use Tail Whip on me. Because that's funnier in my brain.
Except except the chance of missing is like the amount that your opponent is moving during that time, so yeah. That's how Dungeons and Dragons works, don't you know? It's all abstraction.
There was actually a card game made by Wizards of the Coast because Wizards of the Coast had the rights to the Pokemon TCG at that time, and I think they actually still do. And Dungeons and Dragons, so they made this like baby version of Dungeons and Dragons with Pokemon in it, and if you read some of the stories, if you like roll too low and stuff like that, the game's actually really mean. Like there's stuff like Team Rocket steals your Pokemon and you never get it back ever again and stuff like that. There's a video out there on it, and it's really.
That sounds like the kind of bullshit that happens when you get a critical failure in Fallout.
Yeah, basically, you know, like if you're playing D&D and you roll a 1, then your spear probably gets shoved out of your hand, does a boomerang around the room, and if you're lucky, it's just 20 tiles away and you have to go pick it up. And if you're not lucky, it lands right into your skull and you take 6 damage. So you know. Hope your DM is nice. Be nice to the DM. Give them marshmallows.
I like how.
That's it, huh? Okay.
I like how, like, the locker there, this detail where Leon is able to move it but Claire isn't, makes me think that the original plan was that Claire would fight, you know, Claire would fight, like, the Birkin form here, and Leon would have already passed by and moved on. That's the kind of thing that makes me think the A scenario and B scenario were in the cards at some point during development.
I mean, it makes sense if you're looking to remake a game. I'm pretty sure almost every feature at some point goes through a question of, do we keep this or not? You know, and
yeah, it's just weird how many potential artifacts of that design are still in the game. Like, I'm pretty sure the reason we have 2 separate different versions of Marvin is because they already had that set in stone before they decided to just have 1 story per character. So, kind of like that one cutscene in Infamous 2 where the old voice acting is still intact from when Cole McGrath had hair. This is like, for one scene, Cole just sounds like the most dude bro-ish dude bro whoever dude broed. So. Now, I'm not sure if my knife survived the boss fight, but I definitely
think you took it with him.
Well, I mean, if the knife survives, it'll drop on the floor in the middle of the boss arena when he falls down. So. I mean, I know it survived during the Claire campaign, I just missed it there. I'm legitimately not sure here if the knife survived stabbing into his eye or not.
So is your goal at this point just to find a way out of the city? Or,
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
And Leon's goal doesn't become any more sophisticated than that until he meets Ada.
Which is like right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Claire's story winds up feeling like more emotional because her story is focused on Sherry Birkin and getting her out and curing her of the virus. Leon's story is focused on Ada Wong and the virus itself, which instantly makes it more less interesting narratively because Ada Wong is just the mystery woman, and she remains the mystery woman all the way up into Resident Evil 6. And the virus, well, from a meta standpoint, we already know what the deal with the virus is. But, you know, having his story focus on, you know, trying to save the city from the virus and trying to help the people, it has some impactful moments, but it's also a little less relatable than there's this girl who's infected and we have to save her, you know?
Can you pet the dog in Resident Evil 2? No.
You can shoot the dog, though.
You could shoot the dog, yeah.
I do like that they gave Ada an actual cover story, though. That's something.
Man, you are right.
Yeah.
The enemies in this really do take a lot of bullets, even in cutscenes.
After every line, they shoot the dog because it keeps getting back up.
Yeah.
FBI, huh? What's going on here? Bang. Sorry, that's classified. Bang.
Bang.
What are you doing? Bang.
This exchange between Leon and Ada is the most Resident Evil 4 thing, though. You know, just the cool shooting enemies over each other's shoulders thing. It's the most cliche of cliches that ever cliched, and I love it. It's like, okay, they finally established some sense of continuity between Leon as an idealistic rookie cop in Resident Evil 2 and as a wisecracking secret agent 4 years later, 6 years later, 6 years later. That's right, 6 years later.
Ada Wong
because,
isn't
like,
making an innuendo with every single word, though, so I guess...
Well, he's not, but he does have a few cheesy jokes, which was something that he didn't have in the original game. In the original game, his most memorable line was, "Ada, wait!" So...
Amazing.
That was like... Okay, you guys haven't watched Shadow Leggy's old Resident Evil musicals, have you?
I don't even know who that is.
Oh, okay. It's like a really old school YouTube thing. She's still around and you can still find her videos, but this was like before audio copyright became a thing, so she would do animated music videos for different songs and all. Not as a YouTube partner. I think this was before YouTube partnering was a thing.
Oh, mid-2000s YouTube.
Yeah.
Don't really miss you in hindsight, now that I think about it.
Yeah, the video quality was kind of shit, but you know. Oh, yeah, and by the way, this guy still exists.
Hi, Jeff Goldblum. At least it kind of looks like him.
Just kind of, yeah. He looks like him.
Like if his face was a bit rounder.
He looks like him.
I see you too. Real police dude.
He looks like him, but he also sort of sounds like the grandfather from Independence Day. A little bit. Now, apparently this guy is like the boyfriend of the mayor's daughter, according to Ghost Survivors, but it doesn't matter here, because he dies literally the moment you meet him in this version. In the original game, you would at least meet him, go off to do a thing, and then come back and find him dead. But he dies, like, right in front of you here.
Believe me. Sorry, I can't do that. I have to talk to the chief first.
Yeah, Leon is still going by protocol, even though in this situation.
This really wasn't a good situation for this Leon.
I mean,
to be fair, under
the so.
Also, to be fair, there's very little Leon can do right now.
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't know if I'd trust him either. Oh, damn.
Talk about
okay?
talk about a head case.
You know, Leon thinks of the pun but doesn't say it because he feels bad. But the seeds have been planted. Anyway, your entire reason for doing the wire puzzle this time is to get in there and get, like, the audio recording and the files that the reporter had. Why on earth those weren't confiscated before he went into prison, I don't know.
Hey, you can't keep walking away from me.
Sure I can.
Oh wait, you know what? I just thought of an explanation for the story objection I just raised. If Irons had ordered someone to confiscate that stuff, then it would mean another police officer in the station would have access to that information. A lot easier to convince them just not to listen to what he's saying.
Well, I guess the deal's on.
Okay. Oh yeah, and also the parking permit's still in there. But you know, I'm pretty sure we could get out without that. We have enough firepower.
Yeah, but we'd have to waste all those bullets and...
The old Resident Evil standby.
Circuit puzzles.
No, the crank. The crank!
Oh, that too.
Come on. You've been with this series long enough to get it. But yeah, we need to go find the power panel parts.
This is the most relatable note I've ever seen where they're just begging the manager to please buy replacement rubber bands because we've been out of rubber bands for a month and we really need them. But no, they
For
can't
the last
afford
time, I
them.
did not order a giant trampoline.
Oh, we can't spend the $5 on a new box of rubber bands, so we have to reuse the same ones we've been using since 1973 that are gonna snap any second now. Okay, whatever.
See, the thing is, like in workplace requisitioning, there's so many layers of red tape to cut through, and then you have to wait for delivery times. So I kind of
there's
somewhat
a Walmart
feel
next door. Can we just buy them? I'll spend my own money even.
you could, but there's probably some fine print protocol somewhere in the employee code that says you can't, and you'll get fired for it.
I hate capitalism.
Anyway, this segment of the game is substantially different depending on which character you're playing as.
Oh yeah, we
Claire has
just straight up left the parking garage and went to the orphanage at this point as Claire, right?
No, it was after you got the parking thing.
Yeah, but didn't we just
what
have
I
to
mean is
open up
what I mean is the stuff that you do in the parking garage is different.
Okay.
Because Claire has to deal with the lickers who have like murder killed all the dogs, right? And then Leon actually has to deal with a kennel full of monster dogs. So the monsters that you fight on your way through are different, and also the events that transpire are different because Leon has to go into the power room, and that triggers some scripted stuff with the dogs.
The dog.
And hey, it's the car key that everyone forgets to check, even though you've been spending most of the game checking things.
Yeah.
Did dogs harass Leon in Resident Evil 6?
I don't remember.
Okay, because they're like assholes in Resident Evil 4, and it looks like they're assholes here too. So if they're assholes in Resident Evil 6, then Leon just does not like dogs.
Dog monsters are the Resident Evil staple asshole monster. They're in pretty much every game, and they're an asshole whenever they appear. But they don't appear much in the original Resident Evil 2. I guess they wanted to put more emphasis on the lickers. But you only encounter the dogs in a few rooms. Like there are like around the kennels specifically, there are some dogs. Man, that was a heartbreaking scene in Parasite Eve. Which, I know it seems like an unrelated segue, but there is a dog that a kid really likes that turns into a monster in the kennels. Ah, the gun stock. Okay,
there's actually
this annoys me. They went to the trouble of modeling the switch. You see the switch there? That has a 3 and a 1 next to it? If the stock was attached, you would be able to flick that switch to switch between single shot and burst mode. But you can't do that in this, even though you could do that in the original.
You have to take.
You have to detach the stock to go back to single shot mode. Yes. But yeah, here's your military model HNK VP70M. It's a good gun, but 3-round burst handguns aren't the most accurate things in the world. They have more recoil issues than submachine guns do.
Can we get a snack from the vending machine?
That would be nice.
Just break the vending machine.
And like,
Can't do that. You have to talk to the Coca-Cola company for you.
Okay, you say that as a joke, but in the Code Veronica novel, Claire actually does bust open a vending machine and steal all the candy so that they have something to eat while they're on the plane.
I was more making a Doctor Strange reference, but.
Oh. But yeah, it's a thing that happens in that book. I would say it's a good book, but it's also a version of Code Veronica that was released before Code Veronica X, so it's missing all the extra story stuff with Wesker. So when Wesker does appear, he feels like, why is he here? He's there for 2 seconds. I don't get it.
Yeah, just shoot the dogs while they're trapped in the kennel.
Do they bust out?
Probably your best option. Yes.
Do they bust out if you stand here long enough, or is it like you walk away kind of thing?
It's later.
Oh, it's later? Okay.
I think.
Alright, so this is one of the instances where it's better not to just walk by them then.
Yeah, there are a lot of cases where you can kill an enemy before it becomes an active threat later. Like the one above the bookcase in the library area is an obvious example. But a lot of the corpses that will come back to life at set points in the game, they can be woken up by attacking them.
Leon sounds more like he missed the winning numbers as lottery tickets and running into a zombie.
All right,
dog.
the numbers are 6, 2.
Son of a bitch.
No, it's like, son of a bitch. You get it? Because it's an actual dog this time.
Why is no one ever around when I make these
Because
jokes?
they're lame.
It just pops around the corner because they're lame.
Leon's delivery on things is a bit too dry at times, to be honest.
Is it the same voice? It's not the same voice actor.
No, it's not. They got new actors. I'm mildly surprised that they kept the same voice cast for Devil May Cry 5, because a lot of series have been changing up their voice casts lately for union reasons. And I mean, because it's union reasons, one might be tempted to think that the companies are just being assholes, but when you have a bunch of different companies doing it, there must be some kind of connecting cause.
It's mostly cheapness.
Yeah, because they don't want to have to pay them money.
As much, yeah.
They want to have to pay these unions as much so that the actors can make the same amount. Which is probably what it comes down to. Union dues and all that.
Yeah, but you also get more guarantees about stuff, and it just means better conditions overall.
Yeah, and if we were talking about a retail store, I'd be down with that. I'm a little...
Voice actors don't make that much money, dude.
Yeah, that's not what I'm getting at. When you hire with a union, one of the stipulations I always hear about with actors, voice actors in particular, is you can only hire other actors from that union, which means
No, that's usually not the case.
There's
No?
also, as far as I can
No.
tell, only one major voice actor union. So, or
It's,
at
it's
least,
all just under Screen Actors Guild.
Yeah, so it doesn't really.
It was just a matter of what the Screen Actors Guild technically covered.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is a stipulation that I've heard about, though.
That's more a Japanese thing than a Western thing.
Yeah.
Actually, that's probably the most relatable zombie I've ever seen in my life. I think I'm the same way when I get home.
Yeah, in the B scenario, he just wakes up before you take the key anyway, so you have to deal with him more directly than you might have to in the A scenario. Oh, god damn it. I missed my one remaining handgun shot. Oh. Fuck you. There.
Ew!
Sometimes when they die, they still sort of lurch towards you, and you have to push them off.
No, you split their head wide open, but then the split head starts talking to you like a Muppet.
What, with the little bits of gore just flapping back and forth?
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. But back to the voice actor thing, I guess the only thing I'm worried about is, like, if the union winds up cutting non-unionized workers out from getting work, then I have an issue with that.
It's just a matter of who you want to hire.
And I mean, I'm sure if it's...
I mean, generally, if you hire union actors, you do have to use union actors. They don't really let you mix, but nothing's stopping companies from using other actors who aren't union. It's just a matter of
if you want
more
someone...
actors
No,
want to be...
what I mean is, like, on the same project.
Well, I mean, if there's a specific instance where they want to make it work, they'll make it work. Like, as if
Yeah.
famous actor who always plays specific character is that character and they want to use someone else, then, you know, they'll go through the if they really want it, they'll go through the hassle to make it work. You know, if they want a union actor, other words, they just might have to pay a little bit extra money to...
A little bit.
Well, honestly, in comparison to where most of the money goes, it's actually probably not that much. So, I mean, granted, yes, they probably would get paid a relatively significant amount of money, but again, voice actors don't get paid a lot unless if you're like a big name celebrity outside of the field of voice acting, which is why it's always confuses me why game companies still to this day will bring in big people like I know we all love Keanu, and I don't want to speak ill about him, but it's just like, okay, for the money you spent to get Keanu, you probably could have given every other voice actor in that game another $30K and saved money. So
I mean, the other thing is that's what Disney did all the time with the Ghibli movies. They always got famous people or relatives of famous people to be the roles. It's like you could just hire actual voice actors to do this.
Yeah, and then a lot of the times they'd half-ass it anyway. Like Christian Bale was Who's Its Face in Howl's Moving Castle, and he did not care when he was doing that movie at all.
Yeah. Or Liam Neeson in Ponyo, and it's just Liam Neeson doing Liam Neeson's voice.
You
maybe
drank
they
human
felt
blood,
for the.
he says with the.
Maybe they felt for the Ghibli films that it was of a necessity because they might have think there was still a stigma about Japanese animation doing well.
I
in
mean,
Western
they do that for a lot
countries.
of Western movies too. Like there's a really interesting video about this by someone who I do not remember off the top of my head, but Lindsay Ellis did a video about this where the genie, Robin Williams being the genie, like
okay, I've seen that video.
where before, I mean, obviously there were celebrities in in animated movies before the genie, but the genie was one of the first times where they really marketed the fact that they had a big name in this movie. And so after that, and then you get like your late 2000s, early 2010s, where it's just like every single person playing every single character in this movie is a huge name celebrity, where it's just like you don't really need that many big names in order to sell a movie to kids.
It's sort of overcompensating, to be real, because we're talking about mediums who at one time and still to some extent are fighting for legitimacy in the public eye, So like when Mass Effect came about, they got all these sci-fi actors involved in the voice acting, that kind of thing.
I wish that, because it feels like it's been going on for forever, though. I wish that we didn't have to keep on acting like we're a super serious art form and that needs to be taken seriously, and we could just be an art form that is taken seriously, because I think at this point, the only people who think that video games are just for kids or not serious are 60-year-olds, I mean,
yeah, probably.
Who you're not trying to appeal to anyway.
I mean, your coworker Jeff, who who doesn't play games at all, might raise an eyebrow at you, or it's just like, oh man, I was playing this game and the story's really good. They might be like, wow, a video game, really? But I don't think that they'd be appalled at the suggestion. They'd just be like, oh, huh, that's surprising to me, So I feel like they don't really need to, put Patrick Stewart in the game for 20 seconds in order to get people to take it seriously.
Patrick Stewart and Michael Gambon, they did the same thing again with Elder Scrolls Online. So, for what was the opening section for a while, I think until an expansion changed the opening section to something else entirely, there was this character voiced by Michael Gambon, who basically had the same role as the Patrick Stewart guy, except he wasn't attached to, a long-standing Elder Scrolls character, so...
I think it bothers me more in animation than it does in video games, because in animation... it's not like the 6-year-old you're going to take this movie to knows who, Kevin Hart is. They don't care. They just want to see the movie. It's like...
That's the thing, though. They're doing this kind of thing because they want to legitimize animation for audiences other than the 6-year-old,
Yeah, but they could just do that, because I don't think that having a celebrity voice cast is going to get the parents to sway on whether or not they go to the movie.
You seriously underestimate the shallowness of American adults.
You see, I also, this is, I know anecdotal because this is just my own experience, but, from what I've seen, parents will take their kids to whatever their kids want to see just so that they shut up. If their options are 2 movies, they're not going to be like, okay, I know you want to see movie A, honey, but Movie B
has Will Smith in it.
So it's we're going to take you, and then, because the kid doesn't care, and the kid will start crying, and we don't want the kid to cry, because mommy has a grown-up headache. So we're going to go to the movie that the kid wants to see, And the parent, if they just make the good movie, regardless of who the voice cast is...
They're trying to get more than just parents involved, is the thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess if you wanted to court like a teenage audience, then sure.
I guess, but it's like, what 20-something is going to go to some random animated movie just because an actor is in it?
I mean, we would.
No one.
You'd be
assholes.
surprised, actually.
Yeah.
My experience is that 20-somethings, myself included, at the time, are really shallow motherfuckers.